very spunky little girl. She's just full of personality. She used to go up and down the street just around our house and just always be making new friends.
It sounds like a like a herd of elephants coming through the house. You know, she's running so fast and just gives you a hug and tells you she loves you, and you know, just how fun and playful she was. She was a very, very, very playful child. I just miss it so much.
The story of Serenity Denard is unlike any we've seen here in the Black Hills. It started right here at the Black Hills Children's Home near Rockerville. It was here on Super Bowl Sunday a year ago that Serenity ran. And despite a massive investigation and perhaps the largest search in the history of the state of South Dakota, there's still no sign of where she is or where she's gone. Reports are that Serenity was playing in the gym when another child ran out. And with that distraction to staff, little 9-year-old Serenity Denard ran for the door.
Yeah, we had 2 witnesses that day, and they seen her slip and fall on the cattle guard. Then she crossed this cattle guard, and this is South Rockerville Road behind us. She would have turned here and went north on South Rockerville Road, and in this, probably 30, 40-yard stretch is where she was last seen walking north.
So how long of a period of time is that from when she was seen till when she disappears?
Within minutes, the witnesses notified staff there was somebody running on the road, a child, and within 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, they drove out on the road and started looking themselves, the witnesses did.
And that was the last time that Serenity was seen. The children's home was criticized for waiting an hour and 41 minutes to report Serenity's disappearance. Once the Pennington County Sheriff's Office arrived, searchers quickly swung into action with the weather turning against them. It didn't take long for investigators and searchers to realize this wasn't going to be a typical missing child case.
I would tell you by at least the second day in that we knew that we were dealing with something that was going to tax all of our resources that we had. It obviously was gaining a lot of attention. There was a lot of information out in reference to this child being missing, and obviously when a little one goes missing, it's big news, and a lot of people are concerned about what the outcome of that could be.
But the search went on day after day, month after month.
This is very tough. It's, you know, everybody that's involved that's been out here searching, obviously it becomes personal. I mean, it's an emotional thing, and the longer it goes on, it gets harder and harder because, you know, everybody wants to bring Serenity home. If she is up in the woods, we want to find her and bring closure to all this.
And the Black Hills Children's Home came under scrutiny as well. The South Dakota Department of Health and the Department of Social Services reviewed the home's response after Serenity walked away. The report cited the delay in calling 911 and the radios of the home's workers operating on 3 different frequencies, meaning not everyone could hear everything at the same time. And in that report, Children's Home Society Executive Director Bill Colson was quoted as saying, "Complacency among the staff was an issue. Kids had run in the past. Staff had found them. They thought this time would have been the same," end quote.
Kids typically don't do what Serenity did. So I'll be perfectly honest, it caught us a bit off guard. Runaways at our agency are not uncommon. What is uncommon is for a child to run a great distance away. Typically a child, if they leave one room, they'll run into another room, hide under a bed, hide under a desk or something like that. And so we responded like we would typically respond, and that is, let's search the buildings first. As a result, we delayed a bit in dialing 911. And in conversation with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department, there's no prescribed time. The word that the sheriff used with me was that sooner is always better.
At the time of that interview in April, Colson said policies had already been changed. All radios would now be set to a single frequency, and 911 would now be called immediately.
I'm not absolutely certain it would have made a real difference in locating Serenity.
And the weather presented a huge challenge, shutting down the search at times, but that didn't dim the resolve of the people doing the work.
The Sheriff of Pennington County is 100% committed to bringing Serenity home, no matter how that is. We are working every angle of every possibility, and we are going to work until we find her, and that is our 100% commitment.
It's hard knowing as a searcher that I've got a missing 9-year-old in my backyard out here, and so we want closure for that family, we want closure for Serenity, and we want closure for the community. we get across the fence, we're going to line up again and move on up the hill. Here we go.
Gail, you're very familiar with this area, being here near Rockerville. What are the challenges of a search in this terrain, in this area out here?
There's a lot of challenges with this terrain and this area, not only for us as searchers, but also for the dogs. So if you look at the general area, we have a lot of gray rocks, gray trees, a lot of gray ground. And if you look at the colors that she was wearing at the time Serenity disappeared, a lot of that blends in with the background that we have. For the dogs, the wind conditions in this type of a terrain will whirl around, they'll swirl around, and they're not consistently out of the same direction. So that hampers the dogs. And if they get some sort of interest, they like to stay with that wind. And if the wind's moving around, that just makes it a little more challenging for the dogs as well. Disheartening, I think, is the word the sheriff used. Frustration, and it's just hard ultimately. You know, everybody wants to bring Serenity home. We want to find it. We want to bring kind of some closure to not only her family, but also the community. The community is very involved in this.
Those individuals are rock stars. The amount of time, you know, they're donating their personal time. You know, there people going up there with dogs all the time. You know, people donating to the cause. It's, you know, we live in an awesome community. You know, that people genuinely care. But she's still missing. But you know, I can't. You know, it's not their fault. They haven't found her. You know, they're trying. I honestly believe that they're putting in every ounce of effort that they can.
And the search continued, whether it was search dogs or community members, including this group of Ellsworth Air Force Base airmen who turned out in June.
We're going to get told from where we're going to start and just keep going until they call us back for lunch. I was like, might as well just, you know, utilize my time wisely and help for a good cause. So she's been missing for a while, so why not get her found?
We're all part of a big community of the Black Hills, and we're very proud to have been selected to come here and hopefully bring the family closure. And, you know, definitely glad that they want us here.
As of the beginning of the week, searchers have walked about 5,300 miles in the area around the children's home, about 4,200 of that by people and about 1,100 by dogs. That includes a total of about 1,600 individual trips, some people just a weekend or two, and others coming back again and again.
This is her last known spot here right by the home, and all this blue is every walk that we've had. And we can click on any one of these blue marks, and I can tell you who it was and how far they walked that day. So every time the sheriff or Gail or Corey or I've been out here, we can find all of our walking. So you can see we're walking the grid pattern. We're doing a traditional search pattern. But again, this looks easy because it's flat. But some of these gaps you see in here are, you know, they're mountains that we can't scale. And we know she's not up there. But this is all the canine activity that we've had. We've a lot in the home area those first days, but a lot of gridding back and forth as well. And then when you put it all together, you have this, and this is pretty accurate. And this is what the folks carry. We gave every one of them one of these. They turn on before they start walking and turn off when they're done. And then we can and so this collectively is over 5,000 miles of up and down, in and out, around, through.
Search dogs found the scent of human remains, although they can't tell who, but nothing has ever been found. That leaves many wondering, could she still be out there? Now, one thing, Kevin, Sheriff Tone was saying that I had not thought about the possibility you guys may have walked over her or by her 2 or 3 times and not spotted her. How, I guess, for people that aren't here, how doing that, how could that happen?
You know, we've talked about that a lot, how we stepped over her somewhere, you know, and it can happen because obviously she's very small. We believe if she's out here, she is probably very compact and balled up, probably underneath some sort of a rock ledge or a tree or a root ball or something where she's trying to probably get warm. And so obviously her physical structure is tiny.
How wide is the investigation into Serenity's disappearance gone? And just where does that investigation sit today? Those answers when the search for Serenity continues. You've seen the searchers and you've seen the dog teams fanning out in the Rockerville area, but that's the part of the investigation into Serenity Denard's disappearance that's visible. What about the part that you don't see? What's been going on behind the scenes with investigators?
We have conducted over 465 interviews or contacts in reference to this case. We have interviewed anybody that may have an interest or had a responsibility for the caretaking of this child. We have talked to family. Our investigation as a whole is going to encompass over 36 states and 4 countries. So, yeah, it's pretty big.
And of course, this is the most visible part, and that's what we put on, social media and to the media we share when we go out and search, to be as transparent as we can. What we don't talk about is every week when we follow up an investigative lead, we don't put that on social media and say, today we followed up an investigative lead. So people need to understand that while we're searching, we're also investigating at the same time and have since the beginning.
Brubachen said they had a recent meeting with the FBI to go over the case to see whether there's anything they weren't seeing, anything else they should examine. He says they didn't find anything new. So after all of that, is there a definitive answer as to just what happened to Serenity Denard?
Do you feel like she's out here?
I always say this, we're investigating, we're searching. Based on our cadaver scent that we've had, we feel there's something out here, whether that's Serenity or somebody else. I can't tell you that. I lean towards her being in the woods as opposed to being abducted, but I can't unequivocally say one way or the other because we haven't found her.
Do you believe she's out here?
I'm going to agree with what the sheriff says. We have not logged 5,000 miles of walking just to put on a show so people think we're working hard. We've done an investigation, which is very thorough, and we've done searching, which is very thorough, so we can cover both bases. So until we decide we're no longer looking, I will continue to look, and we're going to bring her home eventually.
How hopeful are you that she's alive and she's out there somewhere?
You always hope that that's the case. I have to look at things factually, and I have to look at where the facts of this case are directing us. So I can't tell you that, she's not alive. I would tell you that my hope is that she is alive, okay? But I'm also looking at the possibility that she's not.
What do you think, looking back, what do you think happened that day? What do you think, you had to have thought a lot about that. What do you think happened that day?
It changes all the time. Personally, I feel, she ran away, and I think she just ran too far and didn't know how to get back.
I have mixed feelings because as the time goes on, each day that passes, it seems like, one day you'll think, oh, that, people are still calling in, there's leads, and so you get hopeful that she is out there, that maybe, when she walked off the cattle guard, she ducked around the corner, maybe somebody picked her up, maybe somebody saw her. I've thought, maybe, it was some kind of an inside job, that people, planned all of this. And, you're constantly thinking and trying to figure out what exactly happened.
What has this past year been like for the family, and what are they doing to hold on to hope? We'll examine that when the search for Serenity continues.
After being moved from foster home to foster home, Serenity was finally adopted by Chad and Darcy when Serenity was 4. Darcy and Chad divorced and both remarried. Serenity was living with Chad and Cassandra when she was put into the Black Hills Children's Home.
Serenity faced a lot of attachment issues. It's called a reactive attachment disorder. And it just, with her trauma from being in the social services system, she had a really, she couldn't really attached to a person. You know, she didn't understand feelings like a healthy kid would.
It would seem like some days she had a very close bond with you, and then the next day, you know, it was, I don't like you, you're not my parents, and, you know, so she could switch pretty easily back and forth.
It's been a year now since Serenity Denard disappeared. That means frustration for searchers, frustrations for investigators, and frustrations for the public following the case. But what has that year been like for Serenity's family?
You're wearing a mask every day, you know, because it's on the forefront, first thing on your mind every second of every day. Seeing going through the drive-through at the Dairy Queen or whatnot, and, you know, there's a missing picture, you know, and it's good that they're there, but, you know, it's just a punch every time to the heart, you know. It brings it back home every time.
Pretty much hell. There's days when you can't get out of bed. You just can't. You're thinking about her all the time. I pray about her constantly.
It's been rough, having my own personal emotions going through my mind about what I could have done better, but having to see my wife go through what she goes through on a daily basis is very difficult for me to watch.
Miserable, absolutely. It's hard for us, it's hard for everyone around us, it's hard for our other children. We want answers. I think we try to make ideas like this could be the situation, or this could be just to get you through the next minute.
It's also been a year of dealing with online speculations, theories, and often accusations against virtually everyone involved.
No matter, you know, how Chad and I ended things and our relationship, that we are all good people. There's many family members that Serenity has, and we all love her so much.
You know, there's no hidden details. You know, it's what's out there is out there, really. You know, we're not hiding her. You know, nobody's in our family's hiding her, and, you know, she's a missing little girl, and that's just it. That's really all there is to it. She's out there needing help.
Are there changes that can be made to help other children in the same situation in the future? The important lessons learned in the search for Serenity.
So what can be done to make sure nothing like this happens again? In December, Governor Kristi Noem announced that she'll pursue legislation that would improve the oversight of private treatment facilities for children and youth. The Department of Social Services came up with a report to identify possible reforms. That report came up with recommendations, including increasing the number of licensing on-site visits, enhancing the reporting system for serious injury and death, revising the reporting protocol to Child Protective Services to licensees, adding additional contracted investigators, and transparency through the creation of a central repository for DSS reports that would be open to public inspection. And then there's the push to create the Serenity Alert that's designed to make public notification of a missing child who doesn't qualify for an Amber Alert quick and easy.
So Serenity did not qualify for that. That's the reason why the Endangered Child Alert went up. So Kayla Saka out of Nebraska and myself started pushing this alert called the Serenity Alert, because of course everybody knows the Amber Alert was named after a little girl named Amber. This one we're going to name after Serenity. Well, you've got the Amber Alert way up here, and you've got the Endangered Child Alert way down here. What we're trying to do is filter it and put a Serenity Alert right between the two in the middle. So if we could get a 6th, an 8th, a 10th, a 12th of those kids that go missing come back to their families, that's a pretty big number. So it's very important that we understand that there are so many children on an annual basis that are missing, whether they're gone 10 minutes, 24 hours, never come home. And if that alert can be put in place to bring these children back, because had she qualified for a system like that, we wouldn't be having this conversation today, because people would have been on top of her way sooner than what they were, because there was no text that went out, there was no calls or no emails, nothing like that, because she didn't qualify. We put up Serenity Alert signs, and I want to make a difference in this state, because what happens with the alert is we get it initiated in South Dakota, and we just hope that people around the surrounding areas follow suit. You know, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, North Dakota, and before you know it, it's all over the United States, because people are seeing how South Dakota did it.
So do you think it would have made a difference had you had something in that gap when she disappeared?
Oh, absolutely. I think people would have been notified much quicker. First responders would have been on the scene much faster. And I don't think we'd be having this conversation talking about this story today, because instead of hours, it would have been seconds. So the amount of time for a 9-year-old to escape doesn't take a whole lot of time, as we all know, people that have kids around Serenity's age. A 9-year-old gets a long ways in a very short period of time.
They're gathering petitions online to garner support for that Serenity Alert. The family was handing out pamphlets promoting the alert at a recent benefit.
I think it should be instilled. It's just like the Amber Alert, and I think we should definitely get that passed in the office. It should be something going. I think it's big, and I think it'd help a lot of kids, a lot.
And after all of this, a year of searching and investigating with no answers, does Serenity's family still hold out hope that this story will have a happy ending?
How could you not find her if she were up there? It's unreal to me that all the area, everything they've searched, they haven't found her. So then, you know, you kind of still have the hope then that she is out there. I know she's with me. I can feel her with me. Yeah, I'd like to believe that she is still out there.
I would love, that, somebody took her in, a good person took her in, and, some old grandma somewhere that doesn't have social media or TV or anything. And, oh, here's a 10-year-old little girl that just needs help. I'm just going to comfort her and feed her. And you got to hold out. You got to have hope.
The Pennington County Sheriff's Office says if you have any direct information as to the whereabouts of Serenity Denard, please contact the Investigative Division at 605-394-6115.